My name is Mister AnderSiN, and all of these are part of my creative library where I've either written it, lettered it, or somehow been producer behind it. Every single one of these comic books has some of my work in it, and we're going to go over them all now. My creative work started with the New York Reporter, which was actually a newspaper about the crime fighter that is Dark Justice, and I couldn't draw, so I decided to make that up for New York Comic Con and show off at the Creator Connections from Buddy Scalera in comic book schools. Then we had the actual coming to life, which Dark Justice was and Gothic Blue All Lit Up were drawn and completely done by me except for some editing on the outside. That came to us in 2015. My journey started earlier than 2013, but that was the first time I did anything. And if you guys notice, it's an actual copy. This is a Kinko's, or to be fair, Staples, just printed pages. And then we have this, which is a comic book. It was the first comic book I have. Unfortunately, Irma ruined the copies I had. So outside of maybe being in my vault, which is wrapped, I don't have a single issue of that anymore, sadly. It was an expanded version of the first version I released in a comic book form. I actually used action figures for Dark Justice Burns and Gothic Blue All Lit Up. Again, no copies of those left, maybe one or two in my house. They're very rare. In 2016, I worked on You're Not Alone, number 4, and I believe I was number 5 with lettering. I had a story in here, one of the favorite things I've ever been part of, that I'll show off, and I actually have as prints these days because, sadly, Greyhaven would not survive past 2016. Then in 2017, I released my first crowd-funded project, Fetish Babies, now under the title Barbara Unleashed. It's about a young woman's journey through the New York City fetish underground as she tries to figure out what her desires mean to her and how they'll mold her life. And ironically, And They Call Us Monsters was written at the same exact time and was kind of how I felt how 50 Shades of Grey was portraying the overall community of alternative lifestyle. So these two are more related than most people think. Kickstarted around the same time, both successful. This was actually a project of Earth on Kickstarter in 2017. Now, sadly, most of what you've seen is out of print. That's why these signs say OFP. But Monsters has 2 sequels. We don't have actually the second sequel, which came out very close to this one, probably in 2018. We actually don't have even a picture of it for today. It came out in 2018. They're all going to be put together because there's something exciting at the end of this video you'll see with Monsters. Jax the Anderson, What Makes a Superhero About My Little Boy. I love this. I love teaming up. It was supposed to spawn off into something bigger. Sadly, it didn't. And because of that, this is also out of print. But definitely something awesome comes from it. Just stay tuned. The Fourth Monkey, which I understand is also sadly out of print. I got to talk about trolling and how bad it was getting. Remember, this is back in 2017. I think it was officially released in 2018, but the PDF came out in 2017. Super excited about this book. Some great creators in it. It's available on Amazon now, but I don't think there's any plans of reprint. And then in 2018, Fetish Babies had Aftermath, which was what happens when Barbara feels like someone has stolen her actual fetishes from her, and then Mentor Search, her plan to get them back, and the BDSM survey all came out in 2018. Now, the BDSM survey was the first time I put together something as a learning guide for people to be able to sit down with a partner and make plans for exploring their desires, needs, and wants. They're new. That, too, is actually out of print, but it was always supposed to, as we were always going to evolve the creation and the process. Then in 2019, which, by the way, is when BDSM Survey was printed. It was just the PDF came out in 2018. In 2019, we came out with the Educator series. 3 issues. We started with the winter, we went to summer, and finished with the fall. There's no springs. This is out of Florida. Basically, it was our ability to bring creators together to showcase their different stories. I got to pay homage to one of my friends who sadly passed away, fellow creator, Keith Thomas. Into the Suck was featured. I got to cross over with Manny, who's in the second Monsters book that had come out in 2018. So, pretty exciting for me, that one. This was a great series. We got 3 books out. Everyone kind of went their own way. Sadly, didn't go past the 3rd issue. Different creators, very limited quantity for me that are left over. So this is it. Basically, whatever I have, there's no plans to reprint or do anything else. This is one of those out of the print that will probably never come back. The good news is if you get it, the creators continue to create and you can still follow them. And some of their stories are finished by now that are listed in this book as a preview. Then in 2019, it was time to re-release Barbara under her title now, Barbara Unleashed. So we spent some time re-releasing, even gave a new cover to Mentor Search to get it released. So all these books came out and they were redone. So that's why they're being featured. This wasn't just a new name slapped on it. I went back and rewrote some things, updated some things, and made the wording and even the way I lettered it better. Of course, Barbara Unleashed is the story of a young woman's journey through the New York City fetish underground as she tries to find her inner self, release her desires, find out her needs and her wants, all while having them stolen in aftermath and then trying to find her way back in Mentor Search. Remember Jax the AnderSiN from earlier? Well, it became Cat Dad and Supermom with the help of Raheel joining the project. And we developed it, developing the idea from the original story into a deeper, more fleshed out idea. The first book came out in 2020. We did have a preview in 2019, but this was the big year for Cat Dad and Supermom, as it was successfully funded on Kickstarter. And it's a story of a young boy who learns morals through farts as a story unravels in his head. I also got together with some great creators in Panel 1, Creator Connection, and this was great. I never made the second issue due to problems with scheduling and hurricane and my son having surgery. That little boy right there. But this was great. I got to be part of this. Great creators came together and created some amazing stuff. And this actually has my story of a comic book creator and the journey I went on to become one inside. And then we re-released Jack's What Makes a Superhero, getting rid of the AnderSiN as I started to split away, preparing for some big news as Cat Dad and Supermom would be accepted to Scout Comics in 2020. So we re-released this as one final way to say goodbye as this goes out of print for at least now. It might be redrawn or it might be re-released one day, who knows. And this was a flip book, so it had both issues of Jax the AnderSiN, What Makes a Superhero, now as just Jax, What Makes a Superhero, and the release of Cat Dad and Supermom inside as well. And then we introduced Enter the Continuum. And Enter the Continuum is comic-sodes. It's a way to try to almost try out new stories and see if people like them. Got together with some creators. The first issue was the dawn of Wolf and Fox, along with some other great characters like Eclipse and the Redeemers. In the second issue, I finally got to release something I'd been holding on to for a couple of years at that point, Heroing. The first issue, there's a long story behind that I might actually tell you about when I cut up this video later as Stitches. We'll see. Stay tuned. But I have more news for that about that in the end. So Wolf and Fox is a divorced duo trying to learn to co-parent the city together despite hating each other. And this Heroing is actually about a wrestler who's granted superpowers in a world where everyone who else got powers turned villain, and he's just trying to be a wrestler. But to convince him to save the world, they pay him a lot of money to save one city at a time. And there's some other great stuff in there in that book, including a DC talented artist who's now part of Milestone. A lot of creators came together in 2020 to create Cthulhu Invades Oz. It was released officially in 2021. I got to talk about the Yellow Brick Road. Pretty exciting. Definitely popular at the con scene. This is actually my personal copy. I'm out of all copies at this point. So we're pretty excited as a group. And it went on to create some other Cthulhu verses. Cat Dad and Supermom number 2 came out. What Makes a Hero? And we had this cool Lego cover. And now, of course, you can find this at Scout Comics. Not that cover. That's exclusive creator owned. 2022 seemed to have been sort of a slow year as our last edition of Continuum released, and we said goodbye to it, at least for now. And we released the Desire Index along with the new cover for the Barber series in a flip book. And of course, I released the Vanilla Curiosity. Look for a stitch later. Eclipse and Wolf and Fox both busted out in 2023 and 2024 to get their own series run. And the third issue of Monsters, Heroing by the Hour, and Painbox are all going to get their own releases sometime in the near future.